Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show, as you do each and every week. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure if you have yet to click that subscribe button, give us a like, comment, rate wherever you are viewing or listening to today's show. And follow us all over social media at Media Row Pod is where you can catch us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We have a huge show planned for you guys today. And I'll start off here. As you guys can tell, if you're watching this, if you're listening, I'm wearing my Seahawks hat because I don't think I slept at all this whole weekend. I was nervous. I was a nervous wreck before Saturday's game. And then after the game and how it transpired and how Seattle just put on an absolute beating on the 49ers and Brock Purdy, I don't think I slept. I mean, Sunday, it was the most enjoyable divisional games I think I've watched in a long time where I was able to just sit back and just enjoy good football. But I'm not going to spend all day talking about the Seahawks. I easily could. I could spend 2 hours talking about this team. And yes, talking about how I may or may not have been looking up last night while I couldn't sleep. JSN Seahawk jerseys. Didn't buy one. Thought about it. But I'll save my Seahawk talk for Friday when we do our picks and previews of the NFC and AFC championships, because we have a lot to get to in today's show following the Drake men and what happened over the weekend in Chicago, and then the Drake women having kind of a weird weekend where they have a disappointing loss at home to Bradley, and then they have a nice bounce back win against the Valley's worst team, but still a win on the road. We'll get through all of that. And then, believe it or not, we have a college football national championship tonight. I was talking about this with friends and family over the weekend of just like, the calendar is so messed up. And you guys have heard this. It's been on Barstool. I think it was on Iowa Everywhere. I know Travin Ross talked about it too. So I'm not going to harp on it, but there is a sense of truth to it of, you know, the calendar being messed up where you can have 14 or whatever NFL games and countless great college basketball games all throughout the last few weeks in between the semifinals and the national championship for football, where you lose some of that momentum. But the momentum is quickly building up because tonight you have Indiana taking on Miami in college football's biggest night of the year. So we have a lot to get to. We'll give our picks and previews for that national championship game. And then, of course, we will get to our Drake talk as well. But before we do any of that, we, of course, want you guys to support us by subscribing, liking, and all that. But we also want you to support the people that make this happen. Because, sure, the support from the listeners means everything. But to be able to do this on a consistent basis and to be able to do good work, you need some support, outside support. And we got that from the wonderful people and our sponsors at Kelly's Little Nipper. So go check them out, 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Jeff and his wonderful group of people and his staff are amazing. You're going to find great food, great drinks, but the best thing you're going to find there is the people in the community. So go check them out, 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, a proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. So let's jump in to today's show. I want to start with the Drake men's basketball team. That's kind of, that this point in the year, that's probably going to be our biggest headline each and every week. I know the women went 1-1 over the weekend, and we'll spend a lot of time on Pullman's group, but there's a lot to dive into with this Drake men's basketball team, and a lot of the same old, and that's how it felt watching the UIC loss. Drake falls on the road to the Flames, 74-67. And the first note I wrote down on the sheet was same old, where you have cold streaks, you have no balance offensively. You feel like there's two guys in the starting lineup that can really put up points. there's only two guys or three guys averaging double figures on the entire team. Only two of them in the starting lineup. You have Quinn, you have Shetler, and then you have Thomas off of the bench. Which it just, that's been, like we've said, same old, same old. We've talked about the offensive identity issues. We've talked about how there's no balance. And these slow starts are just wearing thin. Watching the first 20 minutes of every game and seeing Drake go out there and have miscommunication issues, have spacing issues, have that constant 1v5 type offensive mentality, it gets hard to watch and it wears people thin. You were seeing it all over social media if you were on Twitter while watching the UIC game. And Drake right now, this is an astonishing stat. Drake right now, in the first half of their last 3 road games, because we're going to put that Belmont home game towards the side here, because that hasn't been the offense we've seen tip-off games throughout the season. That was an awesome experience. It was great to see Eli Shetler going off for 26 points and the team score 45 or whatever it was. That was awesome. We would love to see that more often. But for this stat, I'm trying to find a consistent. And in the last 3 road games, Drake is only averaging 22 points in the first half. And like we said, it was part of the offensive issues, but the defense comes out so slow each and every game, where you have UIC, a team who, by the way, you look at them and you see the 4-4 in the conference. You see a team that has stacked up quite a few losses, a team historically that hasn't been great in the Valley. So you can make assumptions. You can judge a book by its cover. I'm telling you not to with this Flames team. And if you're a Bulldog fan and watch the game, I think you kind of realize that. This is a way better than 4-4 conference team. They shoot the ball extremely well. When they're on, when those guards can pop shots, man, they're dangerous. But defensively is their identity. That's the kind of defense I think a lot of teams want to have, where those guards are in the opposing team's pocket the entire game. And Drake defensively didn't have that intensity, and then the Flames just caught fire. No pun intended there. In the first 20 minutes, the Flames shot 7 of 15 from beyond the arc, and they just put Drake on their heels so early, where Drake just, it felt like the Bradley game again, where you have this team just, sure, they have a few shots that look open and just weren't falling, but most of all, it was just, there was no balance. It was really Quinn. Quinn played amazing in that first half. Jalen Quinn had 10 points. The rest of the starters shot 5 of 23. And again, some of those were open shots, not saying all 23 shots were bad looks and that, they were bad shots. Sometimes the luck just wasn't there. It rolled in and out. But a lot of the times it was credit to UIC and that defensive physicality and defense they had. I mean, I was watching the game and those guards for UIC, they were doing that BS thing, which I say BS because it's not my team doing it. I grew up loving the Billy Donovan Florida teams that had this defensive mindset where no matter if the guard just caught the ball, hasn't even put it on the ground, and is like catching a breath or just catching a second to see the floor, you have UIC players doing that thing where they put the hand right in the face of the offensive player, and they're just, there's not a second where you can breathe against this defense. And UIC did this against UNI on the road and won that game. And we're seeing the struggles UNI is having. UNI started off the year having that similar defensive mindset. Now it's transitioned where in the Valley, if you're talking about defense and you're talking about goals you want to see your team play with that kind of mindset on that side of the ball, UIC's your team. That's the ideal defensive team right now in the Missouri Valley. So they outside of Jalen Quinn, who just came into the first half doing what he does best and getting towards the rim and had a few really nice fadeaway jumpers, scores 10 points, rest of the starters 5 of 23. You go into halftime down, and again, you're just sitting there going, man, ugly first half, slow, sloppy turnovers, allowing guys to take open shots. But then they come out in the second half, just like they did against SIU, where now they're popping shots. Now all of a sudden, Eli Shetler's getting hot. And then you have Andrew Aaliyah, who is not only making great hustle plays and is arguably the team's best rebounder now that Exact's out due to injury. You have this team just all of a sudden connected. Jashawn Thomas coming off the bench. And I'm going to pat myself on the back. I know it's kind of cringy, for the lack of a better word, but I was watching Jashawn Thomas and the whole time I'm like, yes, he's doing exactly what I was telling people on Friday that he does so well. He gets to his spots. You watch him, he gets to that free throw line extended around those elbows. Man, dangerous, because he has so many options. He's patient. He doesn't rush shots. He knows he can either step through, rip through, try to get a layup. He's really efficient at that mid-range shot where he can turn around, fade away jumper. And then he's a guard. Good passing, good vision. He's got Shetler, Aaliyah, Quinn all around him that he can kick out to. So it was awesome to see Jashawn Thomas come off the bench. He didn't have a really consistent shooting day, but in that second half looked a lot stronger. And Drake goes out there, though, and puts up 40 plus in the second half. You have Shetler and Aaliyah who go out there and start contributing to Jalen Quinn, who just continues to play one of his more balanced and aggressive offensive games we've seen in the Valley. But ultimately, despite how well the team adjusted in the locker room and started to make a comeback, started to, cut down that UIC lead, again, it felt very similar to SIU last week, where you have this team that is down by double figures. And every time Drake would get within single digits, 7, 9 points, UIC would hit 2 shots. And you're like, oh, here we go again. Drake, though, made a comeback, but ultimately falls short, where they don't lead for a single second. They don't lead for a single second against UIC, despite scoring 40 plus in the second half, despite getting another 20 plus points from Jalen Quinn, and you get 8 from Aaliyah, you get 10 plus from Shetler. I mean, this team, it's that slow start is what hurts them. It's a slow start, allowing a team to shoot 7 of 15 in the first 20 minutes from beyond the arc. It's going to be really hard to win games. You're not going to expect to win a lot of games allowing that to happen, especially on the road. And this was a stat that, watching the game live, I didn't feel like it was a big deal. I was noticing like, oh man, fouls. Got to get more fundamentally sound defensively. Got to get into better position. Way too many fouls. That's how it felt. It didn't feel like, oh, these refs are giving the Flames everything. Then you check the box score, and it's a huge reason Drake lost. Not saying the refs were out to get Drake, but it is eye-popping where you do go, man, was Drake playing that bad of defense where the Flames needed to go to the line 38 times to Drake's 18? They went to the free throw line more than double than the Bulldogs. I'm not a guy to blame the refs. I think it's weak, it's low-hanging fruit. That is a reason, though, Drake lost, and a reason they didn't lead for a single second. Is it the major reason? Is it the biggest part to why Drake lost? No. the reason Drake lost was because they were doing the issue. They've had the same issues we've seen for the last few months. Slow starts, non-balance offensively, and then just defensive miscues. That's why they lost. Going to the free throw line, or allowing your opponent to go to the free throw line 38 times, that's a reason to. But again, if I'm ranking it, I don't even know if that's top 3 why Drake lost. Because if I'm sitting there watching the game and I don't have that feeling of, man, what the hell, refs? I didn't once have that feeling. I more was sitting there like, come on, Bulldogs. I was more looking at the team, not at the guys in the zebra stripes. So Drake falls 74-67 on the road. They go 1-1 in 2 games where I felt like they were must-wins. Because you have Murray State coming up on Wednesday night at the Knapp Center. These are very winnable games on the road in the Valley. But more importantly, standing-wise, you were seeing how UNI was struggling. They lost this weekend. They fell to Valpo. They've lost 4 straight. And you're seeing how Bradley and Illinois State are very beatable. Where Drake could have been sitting 4-4 in the Missouri Valley Conference standings next to UNI, not far behind Illinois State, and not too far behind Bradley. So what does this mean? That now they're instead 3-5 in the Valley. Well, to be honest, it doesn't really change much. In winning both games, it would have been more of a confidence builder to see yourself next to UNI, Illinois State, and Bradley, and not too far from those more high-level teams in the conference. In my opinion, I think that's more of just a mental confidence builder. But overall, it doesn't really change much. This is a team that is going to more than likely be playing on Thursday in St. Louis, unless something completely turns around, which the Valley is all over the place. We've talked about this, where outside of Murray State, who has won 12, 13 straight, undefeated in the conference, everyone's very beatable. Belmont, who's sitting in second place, I mean, they're not blowing out teams by any means. Bradley just lost to Illinois State, who had been my preseason favorite and a team that had struggled just like you and I, who just lost their 4th straight against Valpo. And Valpo, you have a team that is very similar to UIC, where you're going to judge a book by its cover. You're going to look at that record, but that's a better team. I mean, they've been incredible. And we're probably going to dive more into the Valpo story on Wednesday when we do our Missouri Valley Conference standings updates. But the point is, this Valley is a jumbled mess. So many beatable teams outside of truly Murray State, who I think can run the table. They're that good. But what hurts about this one, because it was, in a sense, if you went 2-0, that's a confidence builder. But going 1-1, that hurts your confidence, because now you're looking at the standings. And instead of being like, man, look we're right there by UNI. I know they're struggling, but that's a team 2 weeks ago we were saying like Drake's not even close to that competition. Same with Illinois State, who destroyed Drake in the Knapp Center. You're sitting there going, they're not close to that competition. To be able to go 2-0, you're seeing your name up there. Now 1-1, you're 3-5 in the conference. You're now seeing your name down there by Indiana State, Southern Illinois, and Evansville, who only has 1 win in the conference. That is demoralizing's too harsh. Demoralizing's a hyperbole. Gut punch? I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It hurts. You look at that standings and you go, man, Drake's not supposed to be down there with SIU, Evansville. It's a hard reality to face this year. It sucks. But college basketball is where we love seeing those Cinderella stories. So it's not out of the realm that Drake could get a huge win on Wednesday night at home against Murray State. But it's just going to be really hard, and it's going to be really tough moving forward. This team shows spurts. I mean, if only every game could start in the beginning of the second half and only go until about the 6-minute mark in the second half. Play about 14 minutes of basketball. This Drake team would be amazing, is how it feels. But really tough one, 74-67 the final. A lot of the same old with this team. Not a lot of new, not a lot of stuff we can bring in and say this was a shining moment. Eli Shetler continues to be great for this team and finding his spot. Jalen Quinn getting downhill, doing what he does best, proving why he is the offensive leader for this Bulldog team. And then Jashawn Thomas getting to his spots. I mean, all that we had broken down last week too. So not a lot of new with this team, but still a lot left to be desired moving forward. So Drake falls to UIC. They are now 3-5 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Wednesday, we will preview their huge game against Murray State, who's undefeated in the conference, and then we'll talk more about the standings as well. So while the Drake men struggled over the weekend, the Drake women had an interesting weekend. Friday night at the Knapp Center, they lose a disappointing one to the Bradley Braves, a game where going into halftime, you're feeling confident because Drake looked like the more aggressive team, the more connected team, and the more confident team going into the locker room. Then the second half issues just piled on where too many unforced errors by this Drake team and the cold shooting streaks that we'll get to that we've been seeing from this team. And it just hurt them down the stretch where Bradley was able to come back, win that game in Des Moines. And it's a tough stretch for Drake here because sure, you can be pissed off about that loss, but then you got to get on a bus and get to Valpo the very next morning. And then Sunday, it takes a while for this team to wake up. In both the Bradley and Valpo games, Drake didn't lead after the first quarter at all. And then against Valpo, Drake didn't get their first lead until about the 4:30 mark in the second quarter. It took this team a long time to wake up. Now, once they woke up, they started to get more consistent. They cleaned a few things up offensively and defensively, but were able to hold on to that lead despite a few good pushes there by Valpo. But overall, Drake was able to get the victory over the Beacons, and it was a much-needed victory, not only just because it snaps a 3-game losing streak, but you did not want to be the one team that lost to Valpo. Valpo now 0-19 on the season. And when they were down in that first quarter, at the end of the first quarter, you do sweat a little where you're sitting there going, oh no. Not only to lose a 4th straight game, but to lose to Valpo? You would sit there and you would start to sweat. Drake, though, made the adjustments Pullman's always so good at and was able to combat another slow start and be able to bounce back, wake up, and get a key victory over Valpo, winning that game 66-56. Now, what I really want to spend some time in talking about with this Drake team is just an overall storyline. Because after Friday's game, put out, of course, the post-game interviews and the post-game report that I did, that I wrote up, and I had a couple of people, I've seen this a few times throughout the season. Friday was not the only time, but I had a few Drake fans who were basically saying that they were concerned about Pullman's recruiting, which they're saying that the reason Drake has been successful in Pullman's years as a head coach was because she took over Jenny's teams. I'm disagreeing with that 100 times out of 100. Jenny is a great coach, not taking anything away from her. Fantastic coach. She did a great job recruiting. But you know who was on her staff helping her recruit and find these players? It was Allison Pullman. She's been in Des Moines and with this Drake program for 15 years. I have no question marks surrounding Allison Pullman and the recruiting. In her 5 years, she is 93-42. Yeah, you're going to have struggles as a coach. Bill Finley right now at Iowa State's having issues. Like, some things are just out of your control. And you're going to say, well, Finley has injuries. So does Pullman. Coming into the season, you lose Maya Crawford, who at the time is going to be your starting point guard. Well, now you have players kind of playing out of position, out of their role, where Ava Hawthorne has never really had to be that point guard in her years because of Katie Dinnebier. So she's having to take on a different role that I think she's comfortable with and confident in, but you can tell it's out of what she typically does and does best. Abby Alsma has had to get a lot better at creating her own opportunities this year. And she has gotten better at that. But you see in streaks like this and against Bradley and against Valpo, she again scores less than 10 points. You see at times it struggle. Some things are out of your control, where injuries to one or two players can really shake up a team and change the look of it on the court. Pullman is a fantastic head coach. I don't see any of these issues landing on who they have on the floor. And this is going to prove it right here. Look at the true freshman that Allison Pullman brought in. This is not Jenny's player. This is Pullman's player. Anna Becker, the true freshman, has been outstanding in these last few games. 20 plus points in each of the last two against Bradley and Valpo. And in that time, shooting 64% from the field. And the way she's scoring is what's so impressive. She is a freshman and she is posting up. She's moving without the ball, finding great spaces and positions to put her in a great spot to be successful. And she's helping out take off some of that pressure that Abby Alsma has to feel from defenses, because now she's starting to become a scorer and a lethal threat. And then two other sophomores that Pullman has brought in that have been playing just as well. Maggie Taylor, coming off of the bench, she has been incredible. And she was probably the player a lot of people wanted to see take the next step. And when she was taken out of that starting lineup and put on the bench, you didn't know what was her future, but she has answered the call. Back-to-back double-doubles. She's not only scoring the ball and being aggressive and strong with her shots in the paint and confident with her post moves in the paint, but she is aggressive on the boards, and her passing has been incredible. The duo of Taylor and Becker, the high-low game they had against Bradley was beautiful to watch, where you're starting to see that connection between these younger players. And then Lexi Carlson, another sophomore. You look at her size and how she's a guard, and you wouldn't expect her to be the best rebounder on the team. She hustles for everything. And in that first half against Bradley, and to be honest, throughout that whole game against Bradley, she had some key offensive boards that kept the momentum on Drake's side, where she's been incredible. Taylor and Becker have been great. Those all three are Pullman players, and they're young. They're going to grow. I think Becker is going to improve. Her ceiling is high. Taylor's ceiling is high. Quinn, who is starting in that center position over Taylor, her ceiling's very high. And then Lexi Carlson is just a coach on the floor. Energy player on the floor as well. I think I have no question marks surrounding Pullman whatsoever, even though these are really, really tough stretches the Drake women have had, losing 3 of their last 4. My concern, my question marks, though, with this team just comes down to what we've seen this season, and that's streaky shooting, where they only hit 3 3-pointers against Bradley, only 5 against Valpo. They put up a lot of shots, but they've just really struggled to find consistency in their shooting, and the free throw line issues were glaring against Bradley on Friday night as well. The biggest one, though, the one you can circle, highlight, is turnovers. The unforced errors, too, because some of these turnovers are just miscommunication throws. Right now, Drake is averaging 17.25 turnovers a game. And that is why they've lost 3 of their last 4. Murray State, that's a really good team. Drake didn't shoot the ball well. That's a good defensive team, just overall round team. The Belmont team, that's a great defense, but 26 turnovers. You turn over the ball 20 times in that game, and Drake wins that game. I believe it, because of how good Drake played that day. But they lost because they gave so many extra possessions to Belmont. And then against Bradley, similar story where they only had 3 turnovers going into the half. Drake has the lead, all the momentum, but then you have 10 turnovers in the second half. Bradley's going to win. If you give teams extra possessions, they're going to be successful. And they had 17 against Valpo. Luckily, they were able to turn over Valpo more, and Valpo's been struggling all year. So those are my concerns. Those are my question marks in this season. They don't ever land on coaching. They really don't. And they don't land on the players. I think it's just this team, they had some injuries at the start of the year where players are kind of having to play out of position and out of their role and do different things, where it's going to be a struggle. And you're just going to have years where you're going to have a tough stretch. And I think that's what Pullman's going through. In 5 years, she has been incredibly successful. If 1 year is going to be tough, then I'll take that. I'll take that all day. Drake gets a much-needed win, though, on the road, 66-56 over Valpo to improve to 4-3 in the conference. All right, before we wrap up today's show, believe it or not, we have the college football championship. I mean, there's been 14 NFL games, countless college basketball games in between the semifinals and now the national championship. But I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to be hyped once they kick this ball off. Miami, Indiana, it is going to be a great game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So many great storylines on and off the field for both of these teams. I disrespected Miami once this year, and I told myself I wouldn't do it again. That defense is incredible. Carson Beck, him utilizing his legs, has opened up that offense. He's been impressive in the CFP. But Indiana is steamrolling their way to the college football national championship. They are beating teams that I would have picked to beat Miami, and they are making it look where you should question if Alabama or Oregon should have even been in the playoffs. They are embarrassing teams that I would pick over Miami. The Hoosiers are just so fundamentally, mentally, and physically dominant at every facet of the game, where Indiana just needs to keep doing what they've done all season long. While on the other hand, Miami, that defense needs to continue to play at an elite level, but they also need Indiana to make some uncharacteristic mistakes, like what happened with Ohio State. I just don't see that happening. I think Indiana wins, and Kirk Cignetti, and the Heisman winner, and the best story in college football, arguably ever, closes the year with the confetti coming down. It's going to be a really fun college football championship game. Ohio State, I'm a fan of, so of course, last year's Notre Dame game was awesome. the year where Ohio State beat Oregon was awesome. This is up there, though, with one of the most anticipated non-teams that I cheer for championship games, where like it's up there with those Clemson-Bama battles. You have so many stories on and off the field. Michael Irvin, you have Curt Cignetti, you have the Heisman winner going up against Carson Beck, who is 2 years graduated, we learned over the weekend, and still playing in college. There's just so many storylines. It's going to be a lot of fun. That defense for Miami is scary good. I just trust Curt Cignetti way more. So give me Indiana. We did okay on our college football picks. We, of course, got Ohio State wrong. We got the Georgia game wrong. That was one of my most confident ones. Other than that, we've done pretty good. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we can close it out with a win as well. But a lot of fun today. I really appreciate each and every one of you for tuning into the show. Of course, appreciate the support from our sponsor and Kelly's Little Nipper. Go check them out. And then we will see you guys Wednesday. Huge show on Wednesday. We're going to preview the great opportunity the Drake men have to pull off a huge upset against Murray State Wednesday night, and then Missouri Valley Conference standings, as well as just probably going through a little more with the drama we're seeing with the Iowa and Iowa State teams right now in college basketball. So we will see you guys Wednesday for a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast.